Welcome to The Explainer. Chances are you've seen the name Project 2025 popping up in the headlines. Well, it's way more than just a policy paper. It's a massive, nearly 1,000-page blueprint to fundamentally remake the U.S. government. So in the next few minutes, we're going to break down what's inside, who's behind it, and why it's really the culmination of a 50-year strategy.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. When you hear Project 2025, what are we actually talking about?
At its heart, it's a turnkey plan for the first 180 days of a new conservative presidency. So think of it less like a list of suggestions and more like a pre-written instruction manual for governing, all ready to go on day one. And it covers everything, from who to hire to which regulations to get rid of.
But here's the thing, to really get the blueprint, you first have to understand the architect, and that's the Heritage Foundation, an organization that's been a major player in conservative politics for a very long time.
See, this is not a new idea. Heritage has been building towards this exact moment for 50 years. Way back in 1981, they created something called the Mandate for Leadership, which became a go-to playbook for the Reagan administration. Then, fast forward to 2010, they added a serious lobbying arm, Heritage Action, to really push their agenda in Congress. Project 2025 is the direct descendant of all that, and honestly, it's the culmination of their entire long-term strategy.
But what's so interesting is that Heritage's real innovation wasn't just what they said, it was how they said it. While other think tanks were putting out these super dense academic reports, Heritage created a totally different product. Short, sharp memos designed to be read in just a few minutes by a busy staffer on Capitol Hill. Their whole model was built on speed, accessibility, and a consistent conservative message.
And that focus on being practical, on being immediately useful, led to this repeatable strategy for turning ideas into actual policy. It's like an implementation playbook they've been fine-tuning for decades.
And this slide, wow, it just lays out that playbook perfectly. It's a complete system. It starts before an election even happens by showing up with a fully formed plan. Then you control the narrative with talking points, you staff the government with allies you've already screened, you keep everyone on message, you build powerful coalitions, and then you use all of that to exploit windows of opportunity and act fast. It's a full-circle strategy.
So how does that playbook apply to Project 2025? Well, it's being executed on a massive scale, and it's really built around three core pillars.
Okay, the first pillar is probably the most controversial. It's a plan to completely remake the civil service. The idea is to reclassify tens of thousands of career federal employees, people who currently have job protections, and make them at-will workers. This policy is called Schedule F, and it would make it way easier for a new president to fire them and, crucially, replace them with people loyal to their agenda.
The second pillar is the policy agenda itself, and it has super detailed plans for literally every federal agency. The common thread here is really about consolidating power in the executive branch and rolling back the influence of those federal agencies. We're talking about proposals to give the White House more control over the Department of Justice, dismantle the Department of Education, use federal power to restrict abortion, and reverse climate rules to help fossil fuels.
And pillar 3? Well, it's not enough to just have a policy plan. You also need the people ready to implement it from day one. So Project 2025 includes what's essentially a conservative LinkedIn. It's a database and training academy to vet and prepare thousands of individuals to step right into government roles.
So when you look at these three pillars together, the workforce, the policy, and the people, it becomes pretty clear this is about more than just shifting policy to the right. Like the quote says, it's a bid to re-architect how government itself works.
Now, a plan this ambitious has, you can imagine, kicked off a major debate about what it would actually mean for the country.
This table really gets to the heart of the whole debate. Take executive power. On one hand, critics say this undermines checks and balances and politicizes what are supposed to be neutral parts of government. But supporters argue it's about restoring accountability, putting elected officials back in charge of a bureaucracy they sometimes call the deep state. And you see this same fundamental clash of worldviews on every single issue, from social policy to climate science.
So regardless of what you think of the plan, you have to ask yourself, why has this model been so effective for so long? Well, there are a few key reasons. They have a completely unapologetic, clear mission. They are operationally excellent. They deliver the plans and the people on time. They've also positioned themselves as the central hub for the entire conservative movement, and they use their lobbying arm to keep everyone in line. So when you add it all up, Heritage is no longer just a think tank. It's a publisher, a hiring agency, a training academy, and a coalition builder, all in one. It's pretty much become the strategic command center for an entire political movement.
And this all brings us to a final, much bigger question. Project 2025 shows that this isn't simply a reaction to the last election cycle. This is the product of a 50-year plan. It's a powerful reminder that the biggest political battles aren't just fought in the months before we vote. They are waged for decades, carefully and strategically, long before any candidate is even on the ballot.